Hey guys, let's talk about last night's episode of Almost Human. And I'll start off by talking about the things that I am enjoying with the show. And that is the relationship between Kennex and Dorian. I mean, we're starting to see that they're bonding and one is pretty much rubbing off on the other. And at the very beginning of the episode, we see Kennex getting out of bed and his leg that, because he's got like a synthetic leg, and he puts it on and it's squeaking, and he goes to the cabinet and he puts some olive oil on it and it helps, and he kind of has this look on his face like, that worked. And we find out later on in the episode that Dorian was the one who suggested to him that if his leg is squeaky, that he should use olive oil. So what does that tell us? It basically means that Kennex is trusting Dorian. He's listening to what he's telling him, and there's a bond happening between them, and they're getting closer. And he's trusting what he's telling him. So that was kind of funny. And then there was another part later on in the episode where um, Dorian had been hit by a ricochet bullet, and Kennex was trying to help him, save him, and he had to cut like a magenta wire in his head, and he made some funny joke about it being 50 shades of magenta, so you can just tell that these guys are, they're able to play off the humor with one another, and it's, some of it's hilarious, some of it's kind of cheesy, but you can tell that they're getting this really good rapport with one another. And by the end of the episode, Dorian is singing Benny and the Jets to to Kennex, and it's a cute moment again because he thinks Dorian isn't listening, or he can't hear what he's saying, and he's talking about liking Elton John when he was younger, and Benny and the Jets is obviously a song by him. So it's like they've had some cute moments in the episode, and you can tell that the banter between the two of them is a partnership banter and not one of like, oh, you're just a synthetic, shut up, I don't want to hear you. And I'm enjoying that part of the show. I felt like Agent Stahl and Captain, what's her name, Maldonado, didn't really. I mean, yeah, Maldonado was like, I don't want to say barking orders because she wasn't barking, but she was, trying to negotiate and resolve this hostage situation that was happening in the storyline this episode. But I found like for the most part, Agent Stahl was just standing behind her at her desk. Like, where was the urgency in this character? I don't know. Like, it just I don't know, guys. It just didn't really all flesh out. Like the entire episode just didn't really go anywhere. And I mean, okay, in the pilot episode, we have this huge reveal at the end, which is that Kennex's ex girlfriend set him up. And in doing so, he lost his entire unit. He's the only survivor. He lost his leg, and we've had no reference to this to in the third episode, like but in episode 2 or 3. So at this point, I would be thinking, outside of like the other, agency that seems to be like the big threat, like that is, corrupting this world at this point. That's one thing. And again, we don't get any reference to them in this episode, but the fact that this, which I would think would be the driving force to Kennex, to John Kennex, to Dorian, to figure out why his ex-girlfriend betrayed him, sold him out, stood over top of him while he was laying on the ground almost dead. Why are we not focusing on that part of this episode, like, or of this series? Like, I just don't get it. So for me, this was just like, a case of the week. We've got these guys come in, they're hostages, they want some palladium, and it's a heist. Like, big whoop. Like, what does that really do to the overall storyline that we're trying to achieve here? Guys, I don't know. And I really, really want this show to do well. I like the actors that are playing it. And another problem that I have is I find that Kennex, his character's very robotic. Like, even when he was on the phone and he's dealing with the girl in the hostage crisis, it's just like he sounds like a robot himself. So maybe that's the big reveal. Maybe he is a robot at this point. I don't know, guys. Like, it's just not. It didn't. It just didn't really work for me. Like, as a single episode, sure, fine, but aren't we supposed to be like driving towards a point? Like, isn't there an arc that we're trying to get to? Isn't there a main storyline that we're trying to get to the bottom of? I mean, it just didn't seem like we were doing that in this episode. There was no hinting of, maybe this Palladium heist had to do with, like an organization that would ultimately reveal his ex-girlfriend. Maybe it is, but there was really no kind of linking one to the other. So, guys, I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously going to continue watching because that's just what I do. Like, I still kind of watch shows that I'm not really impressed with. But I really want to be impressed by this show. They've got so much potential. There's a lot to do with this episode, like this series and these characters. And I just feel like they're just so bland and there's just not much working. And like I said, the buddy cop partnership, fine, that's going places and they're bonding and all that's good. But that's not enough. It's just not. All right, guys, that's my review of Almost Human. I'm sorry it wasn't better than that, but it's just how I was feeling. Like, just underwhelmed. All right, guys. See you next week. Bye.